Black Run by D. L. Marshall. The John Tyler Series, Book 2. Read by David Morley Hale. For G and A. Chapter 1. There was near silence as I switched off the ignition, just the ticking of the big V8 engine as it cooled, the soft patter of Atlantic sleet on the windscreen, and the muffled thuds coming from the boot. "If you don't knock it off, I'll drive us into the sea." The thuds stopped. I coughed, winced, angled up out of the seat, and crept my fingers under my hoodie. They came away wet, so I already had my answer, but I held them up to the moonlight anyway. Sticky blood. The wound in my side was worse than I'd thought. I wiped my fingers on my jeans, then drummed them on the worn, shiny steering wheel, scanning the dim road through the steam rising from the bonnet. My left hand flexed on the gear stick, clenching and unclenching my fingers, wincing with every click, but refusing to let my damaged hand seize up. Not now. Not when I still needed it. Not when I was so close to the end. I should have been sat in a ride with dubious provenance, something still filled with someone else's CDs and sunglasses and sweet wrappers, the worn banknotes I'd handed over the only papers denoting ownership, at least until it was burned out. Unfortunately, problems in the Alps meant I'd gone with Plan B, hence sitting in my own Audi RS4 estate, albeit sporting false plates. I looked at a scrunched-up cardboard tablet packet in the passenger footwell. A tear forced itself up into the corner of one eye. I blinked it back down, pushing the memories with it, down to join the others, at least until this was over. Across the empty square, La Rochelle's Cathédrale Saint-Louis finished marking 2 a.m., its chimes rolling around the old buildings of the Place de Verdun. The Alps to the Atlantic coast in under 8 hours. My hands buzzed, legs ached. I brushed hair from my clammy forehead, scratching at a tingling scar through my eyebrow. There was time enough to finish this before the meet. I closed my eyes, inhaled deeply, let the pattering sleet on the windscreen and distant gulls briefly carry me away. The thudding in the boot started up again, but it was outdone by the sound of an approaching engine. I opened my eyes to see headlights shining on the wet cobbles and shops in front. A car approaching on the narrow road behind me. I slid down as it cruised past, leaning over into the passenger seat. When it turned at the end of the road, I looked over the dash, catching police markings reflecting the dim streetlights. Thanks to my aging Audi's unassuming appearance, its dull, salesman, road furniture disguise, I hadn't warranted any attention. I prayed the flashes didn't light up as I followed the cop's progress, watching as it crawled alongside the Place de Verdun. She didn't look back my way. I saw a ponytail flick as her attention was drawn to the far side of the square. I looked out of my side window, over the narrow road I'd parked on. Across the empty bike racks, the bony trees of the old town square webbed with twinkling Christmas lights all the way to the cathedral. Beneath its decorations, a big black BMW had just been illuminated by the cop's headlights. The same big black BMW that had been on my tail since I'd filled the car up outside Poitiers. I'd hit the outskirts of La Rochelle with the beamer's headlights still in my rearview mirror, so instead of heading straight to the port and my rendezvous, I'd diverted here into the old town. The police car slowed to inspect the BMW. A bored copper on night patrol, wondering why a car full of people was parked up here, away from the bars and clubs. Not that they were open at this time in December. I could picture her running the plates. She'd get fuck all from them. They were Swiss and, like mine, probably false. The police car moved on. Darkness again beneath the cathedral. I ran a hand across my jaw, tracing the scars beneath the stubble, waiting for my eyes to readjust. Dim, orange pinpricks moved inside the car, occasionally glowing brighter as the car's occupants dragged on their cigs. In the cop's headlights, I'd seen the BMW properly for the first time. Undoubtedly the same one that we'd seen in the ski resort. The stance, fat, low, aggressive. Top-of-the-line M5. It had 2 extra cylinders and maybe 100 more horsepower than my Audi. But the extra weight and all that power going to the rear wheels on these icy cobbles would make things interesting for them. One cig winked out. Less than a minute later, another fired out of a window to join hundreds more in the gutter. A silent signal. They were ready. The G28 marksman rifle on the back seat was out of ammo, as was the MP5 submachine gun in the footwell. I hummed the Band-Aid tune as I reached over into the glove box, removed a Heckler & Koch VP70 pistol, slowly unscrewed the suppressor from the modified barrel, inserted a full magazine. I cocked it and stuck it between my thighs, handle upwards. Now I was ready too. The red digits on the dash winked to 0203. The BMW was illuminated a second time as another car approached, this time from behind. Blue flashing lights strobed the square. It was the same police car. She'd done a circuit around the block and returned, cruising to a halt a few metres off the Beamer's rear bumper. Obviously, her plate check hadn't revealed anything, but she decided to speak to them anyway. Good cop. Big mistake. I could see what she couldn't. Multiple heads moving inside, arms reaching. "Stay in the car," I muttered. "Drive away." She wouldn't. I flicked the window down and reached for my pistol. Leaving the flashes on, the cop got out of her car, adjusted her hat, strode forward. Her bleeping and crackling radio cut through the icy air. The rear windows were down on the black car, shadows moving inside. Even at this distance I could see the fairy lights glinting off dark steel. The crack of the gunshot echoed around the square. The cop dropped to the ground. The BMW's driver's side window exploded. I squeezed the trigger again, punching a hole somewhere in the car's bodywork. No more pissing around. Time for the conclusion. As if to confirm their understanding of the new rules, a flash replied, and chunks of pavement sprayed my car. The cop rolled away, scrabbling at a holster, then, realizing she was in the middle of a gunfight, did the wise thing and crawled back to her car. A bullet punched through my rear door, another ricocheted off the bonnet. Time to leave. I twisted the key. The starter spun, the V8 caught. She roared angrily at being denied arrest. The BMW's headlights flared in response, cutting a path through the sleet. A burst of automatic gunfire tore up the night, but missed me entirely as I floored the loud pedal. At the end of the street, I turned left along the main road. Up into second, metallic snarls bouncing around the medieval walls. Too tight even for third gear. The revs screamed, past the ancient arcades that lined the streets of La Rochelle's old town. 450 horsepower and 0 to 60 in 4 seconds might be disgusting in a car with suit hangers in the back, but it meant I was out onto the wider road past the Natural History Museum, onto the next junction before the lights appeared in my rear-view mirror. They grew as I slammed the brakes, skidding to avoid a stupid cat, then took a right, accelerating hard again, into third gear. I hit 80 on the short stretch before nailing the clutch, toe on the brakes, side of my foot blipping the accelerator as I downshifted to turn again, heading right back into the old town. My car was nimble, and I had four-wheel drive on my side, which meant the big BMW.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?